Fat but fit is a myth. Obese people who regularly exercise are at increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and respiratory disease, study warns. Quote, fat but fit is a myth. Oh, interesting article. Considering what we just wrote. Fat but fit is a myth. Obese people who regularly exercise are at increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and respiratory disease, study warns. You don't fucking say.
You in full retard, man.
You don't say. University of Glasgow experts study people with metabolically healthy obesity. They found that these individuals were at increased risk from various issues. For example, people with MHO, which is metabolically healthy obesity, which is a weird fucking term. People with metabolically healthy obesity are 4.3 times more likely to get diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and they are 76% higher risk of heart failure, the team discovered. Oh, fucking shocker. Shocker. Let's read a little bit of this. All right. University of Glasgow experts studied people who were obese but had a normal metabolic profile, combination dubbed metabolically healthy obesity. That's a very loaded term, but individuals with MHO have a body mass index of 30 or higher but lack the systemic inflammation, problematic blood fats, and insulin issues often seen with obesity. So I've talked about that many times. You might not have diabetes today. You might not have a heart attack today, but the body is very resilient. You've seen how fat people can become. You've seen how out of shape people can become. The human body will adapt as well as it can until it just drops dead. And it's a roll of the dice. Some people genetically, they'll drop dead younger. People have heart attacks at 30 from being obese and having from heart, congenital defects and, genetic issues. Heart disease is very genetic. Experts have calculated that MHO may occur in the general population at levels of anywhere between 3 and 22%. The team found that metabolically healthy obesity increases the risk of various health issues in comparison with people of a regular BMI. But BMI is white supremacist. The cis white males create a BMI. It's so evil. Is it? Or is it actually pretty accurate considering most people that do BMI, BMI is very accurate really when it comes to people that don't exercise. When you start building lean mass, then it can throw it off because we already talked about this. I'm overweight or obese because of my height, my muscle mass, because muscle weighs more than fat. So I'll weigh about 190 to 200, fluctuating there. And someone that doesn't train, that's my height, will look obese. For example, it raises the risk of type 2 diabetes 4.3-fold and leads to a whopping 76% increase in the risk of heart failure. Experts estimated that there are more than 300 million people worldwide who are obese, a figure expected to exceed 1 billion, or 1 in 5 people in 2030. 1 in 5 people to be obese. All right. Quote, people with metabolically healthy obesity are not healthy, as they are at higher risk of heart attack and stroke, heart failure, and respiratory diseases compared to people without obesity who have a normal metabolic profile, they wrote. Weight management could be beneficial to all people with obesity, irrespective of their metabolic profile. The term metabolically healthy obesity should be avoided in clinical medicine as it is misleading. Oh, well, we just talked about that. And different strategies for defining risk should be explored. In their study, the researchers monitored 381,363 individuals, all of whom were either of a healthy weight, overweight, or obese. All participants were part of the UK Biobank project, a large-scale study that collected detailed genetic and health information on 500,000 volunteers. Subjects were grouped into one of 4 categories, either metabolically healthy obese, which is MHO, metabolically unhealthy obese, MUO, metabolically healthy non-obese, MHN, or metabolically unhealthy non-obese, MUN. The team found that the metabolically healthy obese, quote, of course, quotes, individuals in the study were generally younger in age, watched less television, were more educated, and ate more red and processed meat. Wait, more educated, more red and processed meat, or more well-read? I don't know if that's a typo. That's weird. And were less likely to be male and non-white than metabolically unhealthy obese participants. They were 4.3 times more likely to have type 2 diabetes, 18% more at risk of a heart attack or a stroke, 76% more likely to suffer heart failure than metabolically healthy participants without obesity. Metabolically healthy obesity also came with a 28% increase in the risk of respiratory disease and a 19% increase in the likelihood of suffering from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is COPD. When compared with metabolically unhealthy people without obesity, those classed as metabolically healthy obese were also 28% more likely to experience heart failure. Quote, generally, rates of cardiovascular and respiratory outcomes were highest in metabolically unhealthy obese, followed by MUN and MHO, except for incident and fatal heart failure and incident respiratory diseases, the researchers noted. For these outcomes, people with metabolically healthy obesity had higher rates than those with metabolically unhealthy non-obesity. People with metabolically healthy obesity were at a substantially higher risk of diabetes, heart attack, and stroke, heart failure, respiratory diseases, and all-cause mortality compared with metabolically healthy non-obese people. Particularly worth noting is that people with metabolically healthy obesity had a higher risk of heart failure and respiratory disease than metabolically unhealthy participants without obesity. In addition, the team found that in a subset of participants they followed up with, 1/3 of the originally metabolically healthy obese individuals became metabolically unhealthy within 3 to 5 years. I'll read that one more time. The team found that in a subset of participants, they followed up with 1/3 of the originally metabolically healthy obese individuals became metabolically unhealthy within 3 to 5 years. So interesting. Definitely supports common sense and logic. But, there's always flaws in studies. It's hard to do these studies. And of course, you could probably go through that and pick different things out. Depends on what you're testing and how it's reported. But it just makes sense. It's what you would think naturally. It's what you would think from the fundamentals. So, of course, and this is what's important to understand about a study. When you list these things like metabolically healthy obesity, when you do a research paper, when you submit a study, you have to define what that is. So a lot of people will just take the headline and just run with it. You have to actually define that. What are the metrics that they use? What are the tests that they use? So someone else might come along, look at the study and be like, hey, well, this test that they use to categorize and define this, there's flaws here, but that's why they do multiple tests. They keep on testing. So, but it just makes sense. It's pretty commonsensical.
We stay woke, but y'all sleep. Real mode, but y'all sheep. Out in public, she a good girl, but at the crib, she a real freak. New throne for the new king. Same kid, now my streets go. Same gang, got the cheat code. I said stay woke, we in real mode. I said stay woke, real mode. Stay woke, real mode. I said stay woke, real mode. Stay woke, real mode. I said stay woke, real mode. Stay woke, real mode. I said stay woke, real mode. Stay woke, real mode. Hey, y'all some jokers, y'all a bunch of clowns. You will not get a laugh out of me. You can talk, but you can't denounce. I live a different theology. Why I transferred to a new account? You just fucked over a prodigy. Posted up with a rented crown. You are the king of apology. You about to see a new side of me. I hope you know. We stand up and watch our enemy go. Empire fall, my legacy grows. I might just